Hi, my name is Michael Melerine. I'm running for Louisiana House of Representatives District 6. I currently serve on Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, or BESE, District 4, which covers Caddo Parish. I live in Shreveport with my wife Stacy and our 3 children. I look forward to the opportunity to continuing to serve Shreveport and Caddo Parish. Thank you. I'm running for state rep in order to continue the mission I started on BESE. I believe education is vitally important to not only our families, but to the state and the region. That being said, I think my time on BESE is what prepares me most. I've worked to improve literacy in our earliest learners and earliest students, and I want to continue that mission. I believe this is just a natural extension of my time and service on BESE. It gives me the opportunity to focus not only on education, but also economic development and reducing crime. If we can do those 3 things, and we can package them in a way that they work together, we can move our state, our city, and our region forward. First and foremost, we have to improve education. We have to be able to provide an educated workforce that meets the demands of employers. One thing we can do is we can ensure that our students coming out of high school have the skills necessary to achieve or to obtain high-paying, in-demand jobs. For example, the GM plant, it was just announced recently, is going to bring 1,000 jobs to our area, to Shreveport, Bossier, Northwest Louisiana. However, in order to satisfy those jobs, we have to have individuals that are trained with the skills they need. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to go to college, but we can do that in our high schools, vocational schools. We can make sure that they're trained in manufacturing, technology, other things, so that way when opportunities present themselves, they're able to come in companies and see we have an educated workforce that's ready to go and hit the ground running. Additionally, we can improve the business climate. What we need to do is streamline taxes. We need to streamline how a company coming in can apply for either waivers on red tape. Essentially, in other states, you can go in and have a one-stop shop. You can get all of your regulatory needs taken care of. You can get your utilities set up. They're more business friendly, simply put. We need to work to do that. Until we can improve our educational system and improve our business climate and reduce red tape, we're going to be held back. That's what I hope to work on. So I-49 has been something we've been talking about for as long as I can remember. At one point, $100 million was set aside to connect the intercity connector. To date, there's been no progress of substantial, moving forward. What we need to do is work together as a Northwest Louisiana delegation, but more importantly, we need to get the message out that it's not just a Northwest Louisiana issue. It's a Louisiana issue. Shreveport, Bossier City, the entire Northwest region of Louisiana is primed to be a hub. We're very close to Dallas. We're very close to the Gulf Coast. There's no reason why we can't expand exponentially. One of those things that we need is the intercity connector and good quality roads. In my time in Bessie, I was able to make relationships with legislators, not just in Northwest Louisiana, but around the state. I hope to continue that and use the relationships I've built with those in the legislature, and also hopefully relationships with whoever becomes governor, to improve and get the message out that, look, Shreveport-Bossier City, the Northwest region, is vitally important, not just to us, but to the whole state. And if we boom, the entire state goes with us. You touched on it in the question. We have to streamline tax collection. When businesses from out of state or even in state are looking at expanding or coming to do business, the fact that you have to deal with 64 plus municipalities, parishes that want to each have their own rules, each have their own way of collecting taxes, it's a barrier. It's a deterrent for business to come to the state. We shouldn't be penalizing a small business because Caddo Parish collects taxes different than Orleans Parish. If we had a central agency that could streamline the rules, it would make it a more attractive business climate for not just people in Louisiana, but for outside investment to come in. Having said that, we also need to look at what other states in our region are doing and across the country. If you look at the states that are growing, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, they all are taking steps to reduce or have already eliminated state income taxes on personal income. There's a reason why those states are growing. Having high taxes on our personal income is not the best practice. We also need to examine certain corporate taxes, such as franchise taxes, look at how the ITEP program works. If we can come forward with common sense revisions and reforms, they'll go hand in hand. By addressing the personal income tax structure along with the corporate income tax structure, if those two work together, it can move Louisiana forward. So on my time on Bessie, we've addressed this issue. We've funded the CCAP program, which allows parents who are working and allows child care facilities to have increased access to early childhood care. Look, we know that a mom or a dad that is single, or if both parents work shift work or something like that, having high quality and oftentimes childcare available not at normal hours may be a deterrent from them working or potentially taking a job. What we've tried to do on Bessie is increase the amount to pay those early childhood workers, childcare workers, a higher wage. That is one thing that not only helps our economy, but it can help address some crime issues. So if studies show, look, if an individual is behind when they get to kindergarten, they start off at a disadvantage. That continues up until third grade. If literacy rates, if a child isn't on grade level in reading by the time they get to third grade, the chances of them ending up incarcerated grow exponentially. So early childhood care is very important, and we must find a way not to make universal pre-K in a public school setting, but let's take funding and let's encourage private businesses to expand, to offer more services. The last thing I want is a kid in North Caddo having to drive or be put on a bus for 45 minutes each way when they're 4 years old or 2 years old. The important thing is that we find ways to fund early childhood education centers in local communities. If we can do that, we can address not only the short-term economic impact, but the long-term. And we can set Louisiana up on a path where it can reach its full potential and increase the value and increase the return on investment. Truancy is an issue that we've talked a lot about at Bessie right now. One of my colleagues on Bessie, it's his mission right now is to address the truancy issue, and we're taking steps at the Department of Education at the Bessie level to do that. I want to work, if lucky enough to be elected, with Bessie and with the Department of Education to expand those programs. If you're not in school, you're not learning. But if you're not in school, the chances of you committing a crime or becoming involved in something that's not a healthy, productive thing also increase. In the legislature, if lucky enough to be there, I would work not only with our local juvenile court system here in Caddo Parish, but juvenile courts around the state and our DAs around the state, along with the Department of Education, in order to come up with a comprehensive plan about how to address truancy. It's a very important issue. If you look at our truancy rates, they're astronomical. Somewhere between 40 and 50% of our kids are truant. That's unacceptable. Louisiana cannot move forward and cannot become its best version of itself if our kids aren't in school and if they're not learning. We'll never have that educated workforce. You can't pick up the soft skills, such as arriving at a job on time, knowing how to get transportation to and from work. Just those soft skills, personal interactions that are vitally important for an entry-level job, and not to mention the hard skills, whether it's being an electrician or whether it's a plumber or whether it's going to college and working in an office setting. You have to be in school in order to do that. Now, school doesn't mean necessarily the same thing for everybody. Some of them are those trade schools, career and technical education in high school, vocational school, whether it's taking college level courses. That's how we can produce a qualified workforce, but it starts with being in school. First and foremost, I think it's important that regardless of political party, regardless of what other differences you may have, when it comes to infrastructure needs, when it comes to getting capital outlay and projects funded, that the delegation speaks as one voice. Now, the benefit of that is one representative may be better friends with another group, and one political party may be friends with a certain other group. If we can work together and have one common goal, then together we can hopefully bring more capital outlay funds to the area. As I said earlier, one thing that I have a benefit of is I've worked with the legislature before when it comes to educational issues. So that gives me an advantage where I'm not starting off without knowing anyone, for lack of a better term. I can jump in right away, build on those relationships that I have, and work with colleagues that have already been there in the past, along with those colleagues that are joining, and we can move forward. About a third of the legislature is going to be new. I already know that some people running for legislature in different parts of the states. I've connected with them. So working together, we can speak as one voice and show everybody or remind everybody why Shreveport-Bossier is important not only to the region but to the state as a whole. Oil and natural gas has been and continues to be the lifeblood of Shreveport, Bossier, and also the entire Northwest region. I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon. Having talked with industry experts, it's going to be around for a very long time. Even if the most optimistic projections, we're still going to need oil and gas for about half of our energy by the time 2050 comes. So we cannot set aside our focus on oil and gas. But at the same time, there are other opportunities coming forward, whether it's carbon capture. There are areas in Northwest Louisiana that have been identified as potential perfect places to use for carbon capture. We must explore those opportunities. When it comes to other ones, such as solar farms, wind farms, things like that, there's been a lot of discussion, especially in Caddo Parish, about land use rights and leaving it up to certain individuals. That needs to be balanced. Obviously, someone on their private property has a right to do with it what they want, but to a certain extent, if that infringes upon the use of another individual's land, there has to be a balancing act. It's not a simple answer, but it's something that we have to start looking at. I'm never comfortable with telling a property owner, you can't do this on your property, absent a very compelling public interest argument. And that's something that we're going to have to work with as we go forward. The worst thing that could happen is we could fall behind. We could waste this opportunity to develop a new industry that could produce long-term jobs, long-term stability for the region. We must always be open to it, but at the same time keep it in mind what the potential drawbacks are. I believe the question itself gives us the answer. It's state laws are a roadblock. And so what we need to do is identify those laws. While the purpose of them at the time they were enacted may have been noble, may have been correct, we need to look and see, okay, is this still the best way to address the issue? The last thing I want to do is make it easier for someone to lose ownership of their property if they're doing what they're supposed to do. However, in situations where a person is clearly either abandoned the property, and no longer interested in it, and it's causing a public nuisance, we need to see how we can balance those two competing interests and come up with a common sense solution as to what the best way to improve not only Shreveport-Bossier, but areas across the state, as well as protecting property owners' rights to their property. It's definitely a conversation we need to have. It's not going to be a simple solution, but it's often the case. The difficult and best decisions aren't simple. Yes, it ties in to the concerns that we've talked about now. For me, the three priorities I want to address are education, economic improvement, and then crime. And for me, I look at it as basically a three-legged stool. You need all three of them to be strong, robust, and sturdy. If any one of them is weak, if any one of them falls short, then the stool gets wobbly and it's unsafe, and you can't sit atop the stool and reach your greatness. Crime's one thing we haven't talked about. Crime's a two-headed monster. There's the underlying cause of it, and then there's also the current issues. The way you address crime going forward, I think, is what we talked about. You provide an education to individuals from an early age. You ensure they can read and write and do simple math. You also ensure that they have the training they need to get a good, high-paying job, and an in-demand job. If you can do that, if you can give somebody an economic opportunity, they're much more likely to avoid crime. That's the long-term solution. In the short term, however, we need to look at, okay, clearly not just in Shreveport, but across the state, crime is increasing. Why? What can we do to control that? What laws have been passed recently that maybe need to be revised or overhauled? Why isn't it working? If we can do that and we can come back with common sense solutions that say, okay, this didn't work, while the purpose may have been noble, let's fix it. Let's address the current crime problem. If we can address the long-term causes of crime and then address the current reality that we're facing, that together with education and with economic reform can build a better Louisiana. And that's what I want to do. I want to work with the legislature, with local governments, with the governor, and with those in our region to attract business, to improve education, and to reduce crime. If we can do those things, Louisiana and Shreveport and the Northwest Louisiana region can reach its full potential. That's what I hope to accomplish if I'm fortunate enough to be elected. Thank you.